Hello everyone, welcome to DMUK Talkies, and today we have a very special guest with us, the Vice Chancellor of Montfort University, Leicester, Kэti Nормington. Welcome, Professor Nормington. To quickly introduce myself, I'm Manel, and I'm a business economics student.
Welcome, Professor Nормington. My name is Iru. I'm doing my second year here at DMUK, and I'm studying business marketing.
Great, thank you. And you can call me Katie, by the way.
Okay.
Better, I think.
So our first question is, so a little background. So once you arrived at DMU, you launched a university-wide consultation to co-create as well as to ensure that the university stays relevant and continues to meet people's real needs in the upcoming decade. We're talking about strategy on a page. So our question is, could you please talk more about it as well as explain what it is?
Yeah, certainly. And thank you. And obviously, you're business and management students, so I need to be careful what I'm saying because you're learning to be the experts. When I got there, we had a strategy that was still running, but I said to the governing body who are in charge of the university, I think we should develop a new one because so much has happened, COVID has happened, no one knew that was coming. So the priorities of the university have probably changed, and it's a new start. I'm here, and they agreed to do that. But I also wanted to do it not by us as a senior team saying we think these things are important, but by doing it the other way around. So that kind of, as you said, that co-creation. So what we came up with were almost like worksheets that asked questions about what people thought we should be doing. And those went to students and they could participate in workshops and to members of staff, but also to some of our key partners as well, both in the UK and sort of wider, for them to say, what is it that DMU should be doing? And so, you know, we did have that kind of grassroots up building of a strategy. The other thing that I was really keen on was, I've read lots of strategies, and you look at a lot when you're trying to think about your own, you read other people's in the same industry, as it were. So I looked at other university strategies, and you know, a lot of them look really beautiful. They're glossy. They've got lovely pictures of buildings, of students doing things, of research. But I wondered really for how many of them they were being properly used and read. And so my vision was really to have a strategy that would fit on one page, that people could actually look at it and say, okay, this is what we're doing. Because it's hard to remember 24 pages of a strategy, but hopefully it's not too hard to kind of remember the image of that strategy on the page and also just the pillars that exist there of it. In fact, I'm now sort of so obsessed with it, I literally carry a little one around with me. And there it is, the Empowering University, the strategy on a page. So it's, as I said, in a sense, it's simple because it's got 4 pillars, and those are things we would expect. So about education, research, about people, and about partnerships, working with people. And then it's undercut by 4 different cross-cutting themes, and they are about equality, sustainability, digital transformation, and financial strength. But what I was really keen on was we also kind of had a tagline, so that we became known as a sort of university for something. And that, again, I looked around at what some other universities had done, and there were a couple that I really liked what they'd sort of done. But once we'd therefore got this material from people, we were pulling it together and thinking, okay, there's commonality there. Lots of people are saying this. So it started to pull into things. And then I said, okay, let's do some work with our extended leadership team. That's about 70 people. It was all online, doing those little rooms online. And we said, okay, what would it look like if you used all this material that we've been given and you created a university that was just about students? Or what would it look like if you created a university that was just about collaboration? And we went through all these different ones, and then we ended up with about 3 we quite liked. And then from that, pulled it together a bit more. And I sort of said, I think this is about empowering, isn't it? This is what we want to be, is the empowering university. So really about, you know, enabling students, staff, our key partners, to fulfill their potential and to take kind of control of their education and where they're going. So that's the empowering university. As I say, I carry bits around now.
That's really nice. Yeah. So our next question is, your work experience is very vast, and it's really impressive, and we can't cover it all in this one interview. But we want to specifically mention the fact that you were the Dean of Arts and Social Sciences, where you oversaw diversity and equality, and you even instigated a women's development program that won you a Times Higher Education Leadership and Development Award. what do you think? Does your job like pose any challenges for you? And do you think it's important for women to be in more like roles of leadership?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely agree that it's important for people from all walks of life to be in leadership, because I think people do, look to that. So whether it's about women or it's about people from different ethnic backgrounds being in leadership as well, I think those are really important things. And I guess as a woman, it's been important to me to try to find out how to balance certain things. So I've got 2 children who are now 19 and 21, and they're at university. But, doing my career, and as you point out, I was a dean at one point of arts and social science. But at that point, when I first took that role on, the children were quite little. And I remember other people sort of saying, actually, it's kind of an inspiration to watch someone with children do this job. And it did take a lot of balancing and a lot of kind of negotiating and trying to make it work. But I guess, I was quite surprised. I didn't see myself really as a sort of role model, but I think it was nice to sort of show people that, you could try to both have family and have a career, and it wasn't a sort of choice, and that those things were possible. And that's been important to me. And that was important as well in terms of the women's programme that you talked about. And so I got an award for it in about 2019. I'm still running it now. And I think what's important is that's about trying to get women to be professors. And still, when you look at the statistics in the UK, only about 30% of women of the professors are women, as it were, so 70% of them are men. And yet when you look further down, if you look at junior lecturers, it's about 50-50. So something's happening over that process. And it gets much worse, actually, if you start looking at things like black women. So there are, in the UK, there's only about 35 black women professors. So it's those sorts of things that you've got to start thinking about, how those things intersect against each other. How you can have both the right structures, but also how you give the right support. It's got to be both things. It can't just be support without a good system that's trying to be clear about what it's doing and isn't introducing bias sort of within it.
What do you think the future of education is, as well as what do you think we as a community and people should do now in order to conform this to people's real needs?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's probably one I want to ask back to you as well in a moment, because you are the future of education. In a sense, I've kind of done my education, I've paid my time. And I think what's important is thinking about the kind of basic skills it will give you. So there's one thing about learning knowledge, but actually once you started to get things like the internet and an iPhone, then in a sense you don't need that knowledge in the same way. You can look it up like that. So if you need to know something, you can just, that's it, it's at your fingertips. But the things that I think education really needs to teach are the kind of skills and tools to be able to then work with that knowledge, or to be able to lead a project, or to be able to work with other people, because those are the things you can't read about. Those are the things that you have to actually experience. So I think the future of education has got to be less about just sort of knowledge and much more about skills and the way that you can have aspects that transform, but also allowing people to come back and pick it up lots of times in their lives. So I think the research shows that most people who are studying now, the sort of careers that you might have in mind now, you'll need almost completely different skills to do those careers, even in 5 years' time, because technology will have progressed so much and the sort of needs will have progressed. So I guess the students, it's saying, as your students, make sure you're getting the kind of tools to be able to be adaptable and to learn and discover yourselves, because you're probably going to have to keep doing that in your careers, because you'll have to keep reinventing yourself as time goes on. So that's why it kind of goes back to the empowering university. I think, my vision isn't that we kind of tell people this is what knowledge means and write an exam and pass it, but much more that you discover for yourselves, okay, these are the things that I know that I can do. This is the area I need to do a bit more. I know I can now do a good presentation. I know I can now work with people effectively. I know I can analyse these things. I know I can write a good piece of prose that convinces somebody through an argument. And, those sort of core skills really, which will take you further in your life. But I don't know for you, because obviously you're going through this and it's kind of, you are the future of education. So I don't know kind of how you see it.
I feel like the adults should listen to us in terms of of course, we can take their advice, but we also want to be able to give our own ideas, make them a reality.
What you said about like, it's not about like just knowledge, just pure knowledge. It's about adapting, learning how to adapt in different areas. I feel like my dad talked about that a lot, where he didn't just use his knowledge in university because he majored in chemistry, but he just took his soft skills and then managed to like reinvent himself almost, and he became an engineer somehow, stuff like that. It's very interesting to hear. And I want to give you our last question, which is if you could give any piece of advice to your 18-year-old self, what would it be?
I think definitely have more confidence. So I know that sounds a bit odd because I'm now a vice chancellor, chief executive of a large company, but I think I had to kind of find that on the way along. And you know, I think with that confidence comes really the belief in yourself, and that's, you know, a really important quality to have, because it can take you quite a long way. And certainly, to be honest, I see in young people like loads more confidence than myself and my peers had when we were our age. I think we were very unclear about what we were doing, where we were trying to go. And again, for most students, when I talk to them, they've got quite clear ideas about what they're trying to achieve and what they want to do. And I think already that confidence is really different in your generation than it perhaps was in mine. I think we had to kind of learn it as we went along. And, you know, it probably took me till I was, you know, maybe like even into my 40s to sort of begin to realize that, you know, I was able to sort of do the things that I could do. So yeah, definitely, I think it's a piece about confidence. But you two have got that in bucket loads, so you don't need to worry.
I feel like every generation is different when it comes to growing up and finding their own path in life. So, yeah.
Well, thanks. I really enjoyed talking to you. But also, it's really nice to hear your own views about things as well. And you've got quite really clear opinions about what should be working and where things are going. So I sort of wish you all the luck here at DMU in Kazakhstan, and look forward to seeing you in the future as well. And you. Thank you.
Thank you so much here. And we also want to thank our viewers for watching this. Hope this was entertaining. Hope to see you again as well.